How is everyone? This has been a very, very busy week around here. I have so many different projects going on all at the same time, and I'm definitely not complaining. I like to be busy. It makes me feel like, I don't know. I kind of do, which is cool. Sarah, James, and I are working on putting together the details regarding Tucson. So if you happen to be coming to Tucson in February, it's usually like the last week of January, the first week of February, when people come for all of the different bead shows and rocks and minerals shows and the gemstone show. Like all of that all happens at the same time in Tucson around that whole kind of 2-week period. So if you happen to be coming for that, definitely stay tuned. Hi Pam, hi Rachel. Stay tuned for information coming up about how you can come and spend the day with me and Jesse James Beads while we are in Tucson. We are really, really looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun, and yeah, the details are coming soon. Like, we're working out just the last minute little bits and pieces, but it's going to be a fun one. I can't wait. I love Tucson. I was telling Sarah a couple days ago, I love Tucson. I love going there. I love the way that it looks. I love the way that it feels. I could never live there, but oh man, I love being there. It's one of those places where you go and the mountains are so big and so close, it feels like you can reach out and touch them. I don't know. And it's just a very magical kind of place. I don't know. The desert just kind of has that feeling to it. So we're going to go out in the desert and make some jewelry and yeah, see some art. It's going to be great. So put that on your calendars and definitely be checking back with Jesse James Beads starting next week. Hi, Angie. Angie, I've been thinking about you. I meant to reach out to you recently. I was just wanting to make sure that you were okay. That's my friend Angie, and we used to chit-chat. We haven't talked in a while, so I'm glad to see you here. I'm glad to see you're doing good. Send me a message. Let me know what's up with you. All right. Kathleen, you made it. Hi, Mimi. Oh, my goodness. I love it. Everybody's here. All right. So if you guys don't care, now that we've got some people here, definitely give this a share. Share it to your groups. Share it on your timeline. Share it wherever you share things that you like. Definitely. Hi, Connie. Definitely appreciate all of that for sure. Today's project is going to be a fun one. We are working with the Baby It's Cold Outside mix from Jesse James Beads. I did a snowflake project with it yesterday. And it was really cool. Like, it was a fun project. It was easy, but it was fun. And the results were really gorgeous. Really love that. So I wanted to kind of continue that momentum with this Baby It's Cold Outside mix because it's very snowy and wintry and just, I don't know, it's just yummy blues and silvers and whites. That is one of the mixes from the holiday collection that you can kind of take all the way through winter. Like, even after Christmas and the holidays are over, you can still get away with this mix in particular because it's blue. So that's super, super cool. And there were some beads in the mix. I'll show them to you, obviously, because we're going to use them. But there were some beads that I pointed out yesterday over on the Facebook Live at Jesse James Beads where they really truly look like icicles. And so that's kind of the inspiration for this necklace. It looks like icicles, but then it also has like these dripping elements where it looks like maybe they're starting to melt just a little bit. So yeah, it was definitely a piece that, I don't know that it's like a huge statement piece, but it does like make a statement. You see what I'm saying? You know what I mean? You follow me. Hi, Robin. Hi, Jane. And Joan. It would not be a Friday without Jane and Joan. That's just... All right, so if you've not seen the Jesse James Beads, the holiday collection, when we're done here, go check them out. They're totally worth it. I have been seeing on Facebook, people have been receiving their beads where they've ordered them and are just really, really thrilled with them. So if you don't have this mix or you don't have the holiday collection, go check it out. Next week, I'm working with Gingerbread Hollow. Oh my gosh, it's so, so pretty. So stay tuned for that as well. All right, let's get started. Let's flip you guys around. So let's take a look at the beads for just a second, just a smidgen, and then we'll work on this really cool project. All righty. Okay, so, woo! Oh my goodness, I'm having so much trouble with tripods these days. You just don't even know. Let me fix the lights too a little bit here so that we've got a really good light going on. All right, so this is the mix. It's actually a two-tiered mix. And this is, and part of this is from the strand as well. Like this guy, this was on the strand. So this was just kind of the leftovers from what I had from yesterday, the things that I didn't use. But I wanted to just show you like the colorway so that maybe you would be inspired. There are a lot of snowflake charms in this. We're going to use some of these snowflake charms. We're actually going to use the white ones for our project today. And then the other beads, I actually went ahead and pulled them out, but I just wanted to show you, like, doesn't that look like an ice crystal? Just perfect for this necklace. So we're going to use these. There were 4 of these, and then there were these others that look like, hi Stacia. There are some that look like water droplets. Like a lot of them are drop shaped. And so I really wanted to take advantage of that shape and kind of incorporate it into our melting icicles, if you will. All right. So there is just a kind of a sneak peek at the beads, and let me move this out of the way and we're going to get started. So the very center of this necklace, I have one already done. I'm going to show it to you and kind of give you an idea of where we're going. So this is the focal for this necklace, and it is 4 of those kind of icicle shaped beads, and then on either side it has these other kind of glass crystal-y beads that have that really interesting facet on them. I know that there is a technical name for what these are called, but I could not for the life of you tell you what that is, but it is an interesting facet nonetheless. So we're going to line these up, and then we're going to kind of weave some wire in between them. And as I was doing this, I thought, you know, it would be really kind of cool to do the wire wrapping in between there with like a color, like maybe an icy blue, an artistic wire in an icy blue, or maybe even a satin silver. You could really kind of change the look of this entire necklace up just by changing some of the small elements like the colors of the wire. I don't know how I would feel about this in gold color, but it definitely looks like, yes, Angie, it is definitely a briolette. That's the way that it is drilled, but I think there's a different name for the facet that's on it. I don't know what it is though. But you could, if you did this in gold, I just don't know that it would have the same kind of icy feeling to it. So I definitely want to stick with the silver wires and silver findings with this. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to string these beads onto a piece of wire. So I have cut some 22 gauge wire just because that's the gauge that I always tend to gravitate towards. You can use whatever you want to here. The original, I actually used a piece of 20 for it and then decided that the wrap on it was just too chunky monkey for me. So I stepped down for this one. We're going to do this with 22 instead. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to thread on our beads. We're not going to put a stopper of any kind on this. We are going to make a little bit of a bend though. So I'm going to come in with my my chain nose pliers and just kind of give that a crook in the wire, if you will, just to keep the beads on. But I'm not going to go ahead and wire wrap a, oh my goodness, what was I saying? Sorry, I'm reading your comments. I was reading Rachel's comment and like trying to talk at the same time. I'm not going to go ahead and do a wrapped loop here because I want my wrapping for the wrapped loop to cover up some of the 24 gauge wire that we're going to use. So I am going to go ahead and thread on, and you can do this in any order that you want to. I'm going to thread on one of those really beautiful faceted riolettes, and then I'm going to thread on the 4 crystals here. Now you're going to understand once I get these on the wire why it is that I chose to do the wire wrapping kind of around them, and it has everything to do with the way that they are drilled and the way that they sit on the wire. Under normal circumstances, these will not just sit naturally next to each other because of the shape. So when you push them together, this is what happens. You get this cluster, which is really an interesting, cool kind of look too. But I really wanted all 6 of the beads to stand out. And so because they won't do what I want them to do, all right up next to each other, instead of using a small spacer bead in between them, I thought, you know what, why don't we do some interesting wire wrapping? Because this is a technique that not only does it work with this kind of bead, but if you have crystal beads like raw crystal or like stick beads. You know what I'm saying? Like gemstone sticks, or even the glass sticks that are jaggedy that are made to look like chunks of gemstone. This is a technique that you can use with those kinds of beads as well. So I hope that I'm giving you something here. It's relatively simple, but I hope that I'm giving you something that you can take and use in your own jewelry making, and will remember this when you come to a situation where, you know, you want these beads to stand alone, and you don't want to add a spacer in between them. All right, so long and drawn out talking, I know. So we're going to use some 24 gauge wire for this, and I'm actually going to work off the spool, so I do not have a I don't have a measurement for this, which I'm totally fine with, and I know some of you will be fine with as well when you are able to do projects where you don't have to cut ahead of time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 24 gauge wire, and I'm just going to come to close to where that bend is, and I'm going to kind of hold all the beads in my hand for a second. I could have done this part first, but we're going to wire wrap around about, probably be better if I switch hands and actually use my right hand to do this. So I'm going to wrap around just to kind of anchor that wire about twice. It doesn't have to be a lot. So see, I've got two little anchor wraps, and then I've got this funny little guy that's going out to the side there. I'm going to squeeze all those together with my chain nose pliers. And now I'm going to come to the back and go ahead and trim that tail off just so that it is not in the way. You don't have to have such a long tail. I don't know why I do that. All right, so we've got our 24 gauge wire is ready to go, and our beads are loaded. We actually lost one. Where did it go? Where did that bead go? It just hopped off the wire. All right. And again, you can come down here and like make a little crook here too if you want to. That's not an exact, you know, just to keep them from falling off, okay? All right, so what we're going to do is we are going to just kind of make a figure 8 shape with our wire. So I'm going to guide that wire across the top of that first bead, and then I'm going to go behind the next bead, right? And then come up between, hold on, I do want this to, in the beginning, you do want to kind of hold on to them a bit, okay? So I'm holding those two beads. I'm going to slide the next bead down. We're going to go across the surface of it, right? Coming to the back, slide the next bead down. That wire is going to wrap on the back. It's just laying there. It's not really a wrap of any kind. I'm just going in between in a figure 8 motion. Now I'm down here to the last bead, okay? And at this point, I'm just going to flip this over in my hands. You can see at the top, looking down on it, it's just weaving back and forth. Hi, Charlene. That's okay. We're just getting started. Hi, Stephanie. So you can see it's just kind of that figure 8 pattern. I'm going to flip this over in my hand, and we're just going to do the exact same thing again. It does kind of help, though, to straighten your wire out as you go so that you don't have any major bends or crooks in that wire. So again, I'm going across the front of the first one, going behind the second one, back up through for the third one to go across between the two, just like that, and then across the front of the last bead. Okay, so now these all have one. I did lose the blue again, didn't I? Oh no! Thank you for telling me that. So I'm just gonna unwind. Oh no, I'm making a huge mess. All right, so we'll start this over again. That's okay, because Charlene just got here. So let's slip this guy back on there. No problem, no problem. All right, so just flip back over like we were and hold on to those guys, because they want to jump right off of that wire. And I'm going to use my nylon jaw pliers just to kind of clean this up, okay? There we go. Okay, now let's start again, shall we? All right, going across the top of the first bead. This time we're going to catch that blue bead, and he's going to stay put. Going behind the next bead, across the surface of the third bead, back behind, across the front of the fifth bead rather. And then we're going to catch this little blue guy. He is not going to get away from us this time. Okay. Do want to slide him down a bit though, because he is being a little ornery. Oh my gosh, what a mess. All right, well, that's embarrassing. I can fix it. Definitely the end of the week, you guys. Okay, there we go. Caught him this time. So again, looking at the top, you're just kind of doing that back and forth. Naughty beads, you're so right. Yeah, using a bead stopper would definitely help. I probably should have grabbed one, but you know how it goes. All right, so same thing. We're going across the front. Now I've just flipped this over in my hand a bit, okay? Between, behind, between, and behind, between, and behind. So I'm just weaving back and forth and then capturing that guy again, okay? And you can see the spaces in between there are not, they're not even, and that's totally fine. When it's hanging from the front, you're never even going to notice that, okay? If you do want to push your beads together, you can, but I do want to leave some room here because we're going to make a few different wire wraps. There was a question though, hang on just a second, let's see. Betty wants to know, are there places you can buy bead mat material by the yard or by the feet? I'm going to leave that one for you guys to discuss. I don't buy bead mat material. Actually, this right here that I'm using is a placemat. And I bought a pack of 6. All right, so we're going to do same thing. Okay, flipped it over in my hand. Went across the front of the blue bead, going behind the second bead, in front of the third bead, behind the fourth bead, in front of the fifth bead, and then back behind again. Okay, and then I'm just going to come across the surface of that blue bead on the end. I'm going to flip this over. Rita, the reason that I didn't make the loops on the ends is because it's really kind of difficult to judge ahead of time how much space it is that you're going to need between each bead. And if you wire wrap on either side, I could have done one side for sure. But if you do the wire wrapped loops or your simple loops on either side, and you end up making them too close together, you don't have enough room to get all your wire wraps in between the beads. Does that make sense? I tried it and it didn't work, so this just happened to be the remedy for this. So I'm just going back the other direction, going in and out of the beads, okay? And then when I get to that last bead, I'm just gonna loop it on around and flip the whole thing over in my hands. Okay, same thing, going behind and in front, behind and in front, and just continue on down. And then I'm back down to the last blue bead. Whoops. I'm going to flip that around in my hand, and I'm just going to keep going. Now, you can do this as many times as you want to. I like to do about 5 or 6 runs with this. Just because I really like the way that the wire wrapping looks. It's very interesting, and it's more than functional. It's, you know, it's actually part of the aesthetic. If you don't want all of those wraps though, just turning around to go back the other direction, you certainly can do this once or twice just to secure your beads and then be done with it. But I think it's interesting looking, and I'm going to show you something that you can do with this in just a second that will definitely kind of change the way that it looks. So I'm going to go 2 more times. So I'm going to go back to the front, or back to where we started rather, okay? Just kind of popping that in and out, and then flipping it over, and I'm going to go back one more time, and then I'm going to stop. And if you'll notice, I'm going to stop on the end that it isn't anchored. So my wire is anchored here. I'm going to stop with my 24 gauge wire on this side just so that they are even, okay? Okay, so there are all of my beads. They're nice and secure. I am going to come around and wire wrap onto that 22 gauge wire about twice, just what we've got down here. Actually, it looks like 3, so let's go ahead and do 3. Okay. And just kind of straighten out that 22 gauge wire just a bit, and I'm going to go ahead and trim off the tail of my 24 gauge wire. All right, so now we have this. This is what we've got. And at this point, if you wanted to, since there's plenty of wire here, I had way more wire than I needed as far as the 22 gauge is concerned. If you wanted to, you could go ahead and add some extra beads here that don't have the wire running through them. You could do just about anything here if you wanted to, but I'm going to go ahead and do wrapped loops on either side of this. And I actually want my wraps to cover up that 24 gauge wrap that's already there. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with my chain nose pliers. I'm going to clean up my wraps a little bit. We'll do that after we do the wrapped loops. So in order to cover those up, those couple of wraps that are right there, when I come in to do my bend, I'm actually going to hold on to those with my chain nose pliers. I'm going to pretend that that is the space. Instead of coming here and making a bend with my wire, I'm going to hold those wraps within the pliers and then make my bend. Okay, and then I'm going to come in with my round nose pliers and we're going to go up and over to create our loop and on back around. So now when I go to do my wire wrapping here, I can go ahead and cover up those wraps and it doesn't leave a huge amount of space there. So it looks like my wire wrapping is going to be maybe 5 or 6 times. Whatever it takes to cover up the initial wraps there with that 24 gauge, okay? That one got a little chunky right there on the end, but that's okay. All right, so those wire wraps are meeting up with the rest of our wire work here. So I'm going to come to the back and just trim that off. And I'm going to clean that last one up just a tiny bit. I don't like the way that it's laying. And I'm also going to take my loop and my pliers and turn it this direction so that it is up and down, okay? So when you look down on it, that's where that loop is. Okay, so same thing over here on the other end. Rachel, you're so funny. I'm grabbing that space, holding those wire wraps in the pliers, bending the wire 90 degrees, coming in with my round nose up and over. Okay, I'm going to change hands and then we're going to make those wire wraps. And the garbage truck is going by. Of course it is. That's funny. All right, he's usually much earlier. All right, I don't want this one to get all chunkied up on the end, so I'm just going to leave it just like that. Okay, and now I'm going to trim this off. Now I'm going to show you what, just a little tiny change that you can make in this, but I'm going to show it to you in on the other one, the one that's already made, because I want to leave this one just like it is. But if you want to clean up your wire wrapping a little bit, you definitely can come in with your chain nose pliers and just kind of squeeze them down to, you know, kind of straighten them up if they're getting a little crazy on you or if they're not laying the way you want them to. And then you have the opportunity, there's one right here that I just don't like the way that it looks, where we were capturing that blue bead. He is just really giving me a hard time today. This is going to give you the opportunity to look at both sides and decide which one you want for the front, you know, which one the wire wrapping looks the best. Okay, so I think that this is going to be the front. Hi, Chris. Chris, I've been sleeping with that blanket that you made me. I love it so, so much. All right, so this is the one we're going to use. This is the front. I'm going to sit this to the side for just a second, but I'm going to I'm going to bring in the one that I already made and just show you an option, okay? I'm not going to do it to all of them, but I am going to show you an option here. So, and this is true with any situation where you've got wire that's wrapped across the surface of something. You can always come in with your chain nose pliers and grab the pieces of wire just with the very, very tip of your pliers and give them a little bit of a turn. You see what I did there? I know it's very, very slight, but you can go through, right, and do every single little wire, and you can turn them in different directions. And what this is going to do is this is just going to create kind of a jaggedy pattern with your wire. It's just a very subtle difference in the look, but if you do all of them that way, it kind of gives it a different vibe, right? It gives it a different feeling just by going in and making simple turns either direction. And excuse me, not only is it going to adjust the way that it looks, but it also kind of helps to tighten that wire up as well. So if you've got spaces in here that are uneven and you don't like the way that it looks, come in and start turning. Give a little sharp turn to all of the wires that are laying on the surface of your bead, and it after you've tightened them all up, it's going to bring everything in. To, it's going to close in the gaps. It's really weird how it happens, but it does, I promise. So if you don't like the look of it one way, you can come in and change it the other way, right? All right, so that's just a different design element that you can use if you want to, just come in and make little crooks in the wire, and it sharpens everything up. So instead of having a nice curve, you've got some turns and some sharp edges there, which is definitely different. Okay, so we're going to stick with ours just looking the way that it is. Hi, Lynn. And we're going to start building the rest of our necklace. Now, the rest of this is really kind of easy peasy, but I did leave out some of the wire wrapping because some of you sillies out there like to see me wire wrap, which I think is hilarious. So I am going to do that. The length of our necklace, let me just show it to you, and then we'll build it so you can see. So on either end of our necklace, we're going to put some of these rectangle-shaped glass beads, and we're going to have some jump rings in between here. And the jump rings, I'm going to use some of those drop-shaped beads. That's really kind of where that melting icicle look is going to come from, so that you can imagine like the water droplets are coming down. So I'm going to use the drop beads in between, and we're also going to add a snowflake, because it wouldn't be a winter style necklace if you didn't add some snowflakes, right? Oh, Angie. That's funny. That's funny. All right, so let's do 2 wire wraps on these guys, and we'll put them together. Okay, and I'm not going to wire wrap them together. We're just going to connect them with some jump rings. So again, 24 gauge wire. Move all this other stuff out of the way. And I've come down on the wire. This is way more wire than you will ever need. I'm going to bend 90 degrees. Okay. And then I'm going to come in with my round nose pliers. We're going to go up and over. And then I'm going to roll the pliers around just to get them out of the way so that I can go ahead and create my loop. I'm going to switch hands. And then we are going to wire wrap about 3 times. All right. I have to talk it through. Angie is saying that it's funny to watch me wire wrap because I talk it. Well, but I have to talk it through every single time, because you never know who's new, All right, so there is our wrapped loop at the end, and then we can thread on our bead, and we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. So we're just going to grab that wire as it is exiting the bead. We're going to bend it 90 degrees. Coming in with the round nose pliers. We want to try to make those loops the same size. Okay, up and over. You can always mark your pliers, your round nose pliers, with permanent marker if you want to always have the same size loops. I just kind of eyeball it and hope for the best. And then we're going to wire up about 3 times. Okay, now I'm going to trim this off. If you wanted to, since I have such a long tail, because I always have, since I always have more wire than I will ever need, you could bring that wire across the surface of the bead and then wire wrap again if you wanted to. I'm not gonna, but I just wanted to give you the option to do that if you felt like you wanted to. All right, so there's one of our little beaded links. We're going to do the next one. Same thing. You can see I have a way shorter piece of wire this time. I usually just use kind of whatever scraps I've got laying around. So if you are ever curious as to why it is that my wire why my measurements are never exact or precise. It's because I just use up my scraps. All right, so switching hands and wrapping around again. So I know I try not to talk about football because I know that a lot of my viewers out there are not football fans, but I have to ask this question. Did you guys see the Browns and the Steelers game last night and the fight that happened? I thought for a second I was watching hockey. It was like really brutal. It was very, very brutal. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. Poor Mason Rudolph, he got clocked in the head with a helmet last night. It was bad news. All right, so there's that. Coming in with the round nose pliers again. Up and over. I know, right, Angie? I didn't know that they, well, I did know that they fight like that, but that's the first time that I have seen it that bad. Like, and it was just out of the blue how he got hit. I like, it hurt my stomach, you know, to watch it. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that just happened. Like, they do tend to fight, but that's the first time I've ever seen them fight that bad. It was just crazy. All right, so there are our 2 beaded links. I like the Steelers too, Charlene. I'm a Chiefs fan, everybody knows it, but I do like the Steelers. I do like other teams, right? I'm not a fangirl over the Steelers, but I like them. All right, so there are 2 beaded links. We're going to put these guys together, and we're going to put them together with a jump ring. But before we do that, we need to wire wrap some little droplets. Now, one of them I've already done, so I've got one more to go, and I'm not going to use wire for this. I'm going to put this on a head pin, just to kind of change things up a little bit. I'm not making my own head pin like I normally do, just because this is a very small bead, and sometimes that wrap, you know, that, my goodness, the knotted head pin that I make can be overpowering. And so for this design, I didn't want that to be the case. So coming in with chain nose pliers, just the same as before. And up and over. Bring that on around. You are so right, Mimi. Somebody could get hurt, and had he been hit, when you watch the video, which I don't recommend if you've got, if stuff like that bothers you, there wasn't any blood or anything like that, but it just, you know, it just makes your stomach hurt. But the way that he was hit, had he been hit in a different place on his head and with a different portion of that helmet, it could have been really, really bad. Not that it wasn't bad enough already, but you're talking, you know, hospital or worse. All right, so there's the loop. Yes, these are, Kelly, these are these are Beadle-on head pins, and I don't have the exact gauge on these, but I can put that in there for you. Joan, if you happen to be looking, Beadle-on carries 2 different sizes of head pins, and this is the smaller gauge of the 2. I just don't know exactly which one it is. Did it knock him out? I don't think it did. In fact, I'm pretty sure that it didn't, because I remember him throwing his hands up like, what the heck just happened? But you know he saw stars. I mean, it was bad. Okay, so there are our 2 little water droplets that are going to go between our rectangle shaped beads. This is exactly what we're going to build. Okay, so I've got 2 pieces of wire, or I'm sorry, 2 pieces of chain for this, and they are staggered. They're just tiny little pieces. One of them is is this. Let's just give it a look, shall we? So this is about 3/4 of an inch. If I laid that out flat, that'd be about 3/4 of an inch. It's well, maybe not quite, just under 3/4 if I pulled it out and made it straight. And then the other piece is very, very tiny. It's only 3 links. So I'm not even going to measure it, but we are going to add an additional amount of length to this by adding a 4mm jump ring. So that's going to help just a little bit. Okay, to add a little bit of length here. That's part of the reason that the chain pieces are so tiny. So what I'm going to do is, let me grab another pair of pliers. And I'm just going to open up a jump ring. I'm going to thread it on to our little beaded guy, and then I'm going to thread on one of our pieces of chain and then just close that back. So now you can see when I hold this out, it really increases the length quite a bit. So now we're probably looking at more like an inch, over an inch now, just by the addition of that 4mm jump ring. Okay, same thing to the other one. Just going to open this up, thread on our bead, and our teeny beany little 3 links of chain here, just like that. Okay. So now these two are ready to go. So I'm going to bring in another jump ring and open it up, and I'm going to thread on one of our beaded links. Now I'm going to thread on our chain pieces. And before I close the jump ring, I'm going to thread on that other bead. Okay. Now I'm going to close that back. Okay. So there are the 2 little pieces with our water droplets for either side. And excuse me. The next little section of this is a section that has a larger drop-shaped bead, and there's actually a snowflake hanging over the top of the length here. So I've already cut the piece of chain, and lucky for you guys, just to save some time, I went ahead and did the wrapped loop on this guy too. So we're just going to connect him with a jump ring, and then we're going to add a series of jump rings to the top of our snowflake, and then I'm going to tell you why it is that I chose to do it that way. So opening up the jump ring, threading on the bead, and then our longer piece of chain. This piece of chain is more about an inch, maybe a little over an inch before the jump ring. So there's that. All right, and so to connect our snowflakes, I wanted to do a series of jump rings here instead of adding another piece of chain. This is just going to add an extra little bit of weight. I know that seems weird, but you're just going to have to take my word for it. The jump rings are heavier than that tiny chain, and I don't know. I don't really know what else to say. I did 3 jump rings in a row here. I'm going to hook those to our snowflake. It also kind of helps to keep the 2 pieces, more than anything, it helps to keep the 2 pieces from getting twisted together. If I put another little link of chain here and hung that over the top, then the 2 of these would be competing with each other. Instead of the snowflake hanging really nicely over the top, the chain would give enough room for the 2 pieces of chain to get twisted together. And there's nothing worse than having your focal in the front of your necklace all twisted up, and you always have to worry about untwisting it so that it looks right, and you know how it is. Isn't Joan Dice amazing? She is my partner in crime for a lot of things, actually, and having her here to do the fact finding, I really appreciate her posting those links. She is awesome sauce for sure. All right, so my other snowflake already had one jump ring on it. I'm not entirely sure why that is, so we're just gonna add, actually, you know what, we're gonna just bring in a different one altogether. And we're going to link together 3 jump rings for it. Alrighty. So after we get this part done, we're ready to just build the necklace together, and I'll put it on a bust so you guys can see it and kind of get an idea of the size here. Because like I said, this is not a major necklace. This is not a huge showpiece by any means. It's really understated, but still, you know, still has its elements all there. Okay, so let's connect all of our pieces together. Here is our center focal point that we created, and we're just going to use a jump ring to connect it to the other pieces. I'm just going to open up a jump ring and thread that on, but before I thread on that jump ring, I'm going to thread on our chain piece with our larger drop bead, and then I'm going to thread on our jump rings that are holding our snowflake. And then I'm going to thread on, remember this beaded section that we just made? I'm going to thread on one of those. And let's see, just like that. And then go ahead and close that back. So this jump ring is holding a lot of things going on there. All right, but when you lay it out, this is what you're going to have. And we may need to flip that snowflake around. Yeah, it's going to want to hang the other direction. Let's go ahead and flip that before we move on, just so I don't forget. I want that snowflake, see the little rhinestones on it? I want those to face the front. So I'm just going to flip it around. And honestly, either way, it still looks good. So you don't really have to worry much about it, because when it does flip over on you, it's still beautiful and looks like a snowflake. And if I can keep everything together here. Oh my goodness, what's going on? Hold on. I got this. There we go. All right, so when you lay everything down, one side is ready to go, and now we're just going to build the other side. All we got to do is just add our jump ring and get it all together. And I have lost my jump ring, so let me grab one real quick. All right. So yeah, somebody was asking about the bead mat and like buying bead mat material. I've never done that, never bought bead mat material, but this placemat, in my opinion, I like it better than a bead mat because nothing sticks to it. I think it's crazy. All right. There's nothing worse than having little shards of, you know, wire that you've clipped, or if you crack a bead and those little pieces of glass. I hate having that. So none of that happens with this, but everything still stays on the mat. All right, so now I'm going to thread on this piece, and I want my short dangle to be towards the inside. So I'm going to flip this around a couple of times to kind of figure that out one-handed there. Okay, and close that back. Okay, so now we have our little frozen, our Elsa necklace. Definitely what it reminds me of. All right, so there is the front. That's the main part of our necklace. Hi, Donna. And all I'm going to do for the rest of this is I'm just going to add some chain to it. I'm just using this exact same chain. I've already pre-cut my pieces. I do need some jump rings, but I did go ahead and attach a lobster clasp to this. Just kind of easy peasy. I didn't want there to be any more like busyness going on. So I just kept the length portion of this as simple as possible. And I'm just going to use 2 jump rings to connect the 2 pieces of chain to the sides. And then I will put this on a bust so you can see it. And then I will let you guys go about the rest of your Friday. If you have not, like I said, had the opportunity to shop on these Jesse James beads, definitely go check them out. This mix, the Baby It's Cold Outside mix, is just, it's stunning. It really is beautiful. The combinations of the blues in this are so pretty. And there are enough of the snowflake charms in there to make earrings, which I love. You know, you can use them in a necklace and then also use them in earrings or add them as charms on a bracelet, so everything really goes together. All right, there's that. And I am going to put this on a bust, and then I'm going to flip you around so you can see it. I just want to get it settled first. Oh no, I lost a bead. I'm going to show you what happened so you guys can see, because it does happen. All right, let me turn you around and show you the goof. Now, this one wasn't my fault. Well, I mean, I guess technically it kind of was my fault, but so I put it on the bust so that you can see. Hold on just a second. And you see what happened? So I used an eye pin here for the drop bead, and the head, or not an eye pin, it was a head pin. The head was not big enough to hold the bead. So it was fine when we were working with it, but then it just slipped right off when I went to put this on the neck so you can see it. But that's okay. It's an easy fix. I can fix it in just a second. And the beauty shot where you guys can see it, it does have the bead there. So just imagine, use your imagination to see that extra bead hanging there. So you can see how what my vision was for this. So it has the icicles here in the front, and then you have the snowflakes just to kind of bring in the snow. You could certainly leave those out if you wanted to, but all of the drop beads, to me, it was just like melting ice. So that's really what this was. I know Donna says, hey, it happens. It totally does. It was unexpected though, because it was just fine until we put it up here. But yeah, so this is melting ice. That's really what the inspiration for this was. And it's a pretty one. It's a pretty one. It's not a big, huge statement piece, but it definitely has a very winter ice snow feel. And I know, Joe, I knew somebody was going to say that. That's the first time I didn't use my homemade head pin, and that's what happened. When I went to use a regular head pin, should have made my own. So yeah, it's been an interesting kind of live today. We've had some missteps, but you know, I know you guys have missteps at home too. So I mean, you know, we're just real. We're totally real. Things happen, beads fly off, things hit the floor. You just never know what's going to happen, especially when you're live. That's there's a lot of pressure there. So I just laugh and go along with it. Kelly wants to know, did I make my earrings? I did. These are, it's just a huge kidney wire, but it's one of the bubble beads from Jesse James Beads. I don't remember what mix these came out of. They're gray and just have that, I don't know, they're really interesting looking, aren't they? I don't know what that's called, but they're really smooth. They're very silky feeling. I love them. Every once in a while, I love to just stick a single bead on an ear wire and go with it. This is one of my favorite pairs. All right, you guys, it has been an interesting Friday. I'm kind of glad the week is over. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your Friday and have a great weekend. Don't forget to check back with Jesse James Beads next week. I believe that that's when we're really going to start promoting the Tucson classes. So if you're interested in that, come back, check out. I think you'll be able to purchase your tickets on the Jesse James Beads website. And I haven't had a tantrum, not on a live, not yet anyway. Normally, if there's not an audience, I'm like cursing and throwing, and not really, but you know, I have a truck driver mouth when I'm on my own, so I have to be careful. Anyway, like I was saying, check out the Jesse James Beads website next week for information on how to purchase tickets to come and take classes with me in Tucson in February. It's the very first week, it's the first full week rather of February. So if that's something that you're interested in and are making plans to go to Tucson for any of the other gems and mineral shows or bead shows, definitely look me up, come hang out. It's going to be fun. We're going to do some great stuff. And you can catch me on Jesse James Beads again next week at our regular scheduled time, 11 a.m. And I will be here as always on Fridays at 1 p.m. in the afternoon Eastern. You guys, hi Melanie, I didn't see you were here. Hi, I'm so glad you are. I love it. I love having everybody here. Y'all have a wonderful rest of the afternoon. If you need me for anything, if you've got questions about wire or jewelry making or whatever, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm always here at least until 6 on Fridays, and then I usually try to shut it down until Monday. But I'm always here, always around. I'll see you guys later. Have a great afternoon. Bye.